Okay, so I want to put this into the quadratic formula, but it has to be set equal to 0 first. So I'm going to subtract 12x from both sides. I'm not going to put the 12x under the 4x squared or the negative 91 because they're not like terms. I'm going to reorder this when I rewrite it here. So I'm going to put my 4x squared first. Then I'm going to put my negative 12x. Then my minus 91 and equals 0. Okay, now I'm ready to put it into quadratic formula. I'm going to use another sheet of paper instead for this. So I'm going to identify my A, B, and C. My A is going to be 4, right? The number that's in front of the square term. My B is going to be negative 12. The nose goes. The number that's in front of the X. And then my constant is going to be my C. Okay? Now I'm going to use my formula. Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. I'm just going to plug it in. So I'll have my negative. I'm going to put B in. My B for this is going to be negative 12. Remember, you have to include the negative that goes with the 12, as well as the negative that's part of the equation. Plus or minus the square root of, in parentheses, I'm going to put negative 12 again. That's my B. I'm going to square it. Remember, this is a minus, so when you put it in your calculator, it's a minus, not a negative. Minus 4. My A is 4. My C is negative 91. And all over 2 times my A. Remember, my A was 4. So now I'm ready to put it in my calculator. Let's see here. I don't break it. Okay, so I'm going to go to my home window. Remember, when we're putting in numbers, they're all numbers, it goes in a home window. If it was variables, then it would go into the y equals window. So I'm going to hit my alpha y equals. Let me move this up some more so you can see my y. Alpha y equals enter. Then I'm going to put in negative, not minus. Open parentheses, negative, not minus, 12, close parentheses. Then plus. And then I'm going to do the square root symbol, which is second. And then the x squared button. And then I'm going to do open parentheses, negative, not minus, 12, close parentheses, squared, minus 4, open parentheses, 4, close parentheses, open parentheses, negative, not minus, 91. And then I'm going to go down. I put 2 times 4, close parentheses. So remember again, this is a negative, this is a minus, this is a negative, right? And I'm going to hit enter. I get 13 over 2. And also, remember, this is a negative and this is a negative. 13 over 2. So I have x equals 13 over 2. Or it could be 7.5. Either one. Okay? And then I have, 6.5. 6.5. Sorry. Okay, so now I'm going to do the other root. So I want to go, remember what I just did plus here. Remember this is plus or minus. I want to do minus. So I go up on top of it, right, if you highlight it. And then I hit enter, and that will copy it. Okay? Now I'm going to toggle back and up, and I just need to go on top of that plus sign and make it into a minus, not a negative, a minus. So here, minus, and then enter, and you get negative 7/2. Okay? Now let's do the next one. number 2 here. I have 5x squared plus 9x equals 126. Again, I need it to be set equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 126 from both sides. Be mindful not to put the 126 under the x squared or the x term. Now I'm going to reorder it. I have to have my x squared term first. So I have 5x squared plus 9x minus 126 equals 0. Okay? Now I have my A, my B, and my C. So I'm going to get my paper and write that down. My A is 5, my B is 9, and my C is negative 126. Remember, it changed. If you try to put this into your quadratic formula without moving that 126 over, you're not going to get the right answer. I've seen some students do that. They just start putting in A, they just assume this is a C, has to be moved over. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite my equation again, minus B, or I should say negative B, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 AC all over 2A. So I'm going to fill it in. I have negative B, I'll put 9, that's my B, plus or minus the square root of B, 9, squared, minus 4 times A, which is 5, times my C, which is negative 126. All over 2 times my A. My A is 5. Okay, I'm going to put all that in my calculator. I clear out what I had before. Again, remember, the best way to do this so that your calculator does most of the work is to get a numerator and denominator. So I'm going to say alpha y equals, enter. And in the top, I'm having negative, not minus, open parentheses, 9, close parentheses, plus, my square root is second, x squared. Then I'm going to put open parentheses, 9, that's my B, close parentheses, squared, minus, not negative, 4, open parentheses, 5, close parentheses, open parentheses, negative 126, close parentheses. Then I go down to open parentheses, 5, close parentheses. Now I hit enter. I get 21 over 5. X equals 21 over 5. Also, I'm going to go back and highlight it. And I'm going to change this. To minus. Enter. Negative 6. Okay, so on the test, some places it doesn't want you to give the final answer. It wants you to also just leave it in this radical form. So let's say if I want to do that with this equation, I'm going to say this negative of a positive 9 would be negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 9 squared is 81, and then I have negative 4 times 5 times negative 126. Let's see what that is. So I have, because in this case, since I'm only looking at this part of the equation, I'd say negative 4 instead of minus 4. So negative 4 times 5 times negative 126 gives me 2,520 all over 2 times 5 is 10. So really what I should have done is just added this. I should have just done the whole discriminant, because remember all this together is a discriminant. So we'll just do it now. So I have 2,520 plus 81. So that's going to be 20. So I have negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 2,601 all over 10. So that's if I were supposed to leave it in radical form instead of solving it. You'll be asked various ways on the test to do these. You'll also be asked if the setup is proper. Like they'll have it set up for you. You'll have to choose to see which one it is. That means you have to make sure that when you go and do your equation that you first set it equal to 0, your signs are correct, and that when you look at here that the signs are also correct. That your b, if a b is 9, put 9 here, 9 here. This would be 5, right, and negative 126. So I'm looking at number 3. Number 3 already is set equal to 0, so we don't have to do that. So I'm going to identify my A, my B, and my C. My A is, remember when there's nothing out in front, it's a 1, not a 0. So my A is 1. My B is negative 35. And my C is 70. So sometimes students keep thinking that if there's nothing out in front, that's a 0. But think about this. If I ask you, if I said a girl walked into the room, do I mean, if I say a girl, I mean one girl, right? Well, if I said I have an x squared, I have one of them. So it's 1, not 0. Okay, now I have to write down my formula again. All over 2a. I'm going to substitute again. So negative of my b is negative 35. Remember, you have to include that negative 35 plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 35 squared, minus 4 times a, which was 1, times c, which was 70, all over 2 times a, which was 1. Okay? So I'm going to reduce it, and then I'm also going to just solve it, just in case, so you see it both ways. So the negative of a negative is a positive, so I have 35 plus or minus the square root. Let's find the discriminant. So I'm going to clear this. My discriminant means just all the numbers under the radical. Open parentheses. Negative 35, close parentheses. Squared. Minus, in this case, because it's between numbers, it's going to be a minus. 4, open parentheses 1, close parentheses, open parentheses 70. Oh, I always forget to close this. Times 70, close parentheses. Let's see what we get. 945. 945. All over 2. Let's say we wanted to actually just solve the whole thing. I'll put 35. What? Alpha y equals. Enter. I'm going to put 35 plus the square root of 945. Go down and put 2. Hit enter. So on the test, it's not going to have to ask you for decimal answers. So since this came out as a decimal answer like this, or with the irrational decimal part, then we're just going to leave it like this. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to show you a little trick because I'm looking at the test and it looks like there's going to be a question or two where you have to simplify your radical. So I have this 900 square root of 945. I want to reduce it. In other words, I want to find out if there are any perfect squares in 945, and if so, take the square root of that and put it on the outside. There's a couple ways you can do it, but I'm going to show you a shortcut. So I can go to my y equals window, and I put in the thing I want, 945, divided by x squared, and I go to my table and look for the lowest integer, not 1, can't use 1, that has a whole number right here, and this is it. This gives you every time what the reduced radical is. So in other words, I have 3 on the outside of the radical and 105 under the radical. So the answer is going to be, if I reduce this, 35 plus or minus 3 square root of 105 over 2. Okay? Let's go to the next one. On number 4, again, we need to make this set equal to 0. So it's easier to put this over here than move these two over here. So I'm going to subtract 4x squared from both sides. I'm going to get 0 equals, putting it in order, negative 4x squared minus 8x plus 221. My A is negative 4, my B is negative 8, and my C is 221. My equation is negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. I'm going to substitute B in, so I have a negative 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times negative 4, that's my A, times my C is 221, all over 2 times my A, which is negative 4. Okay? I'm going to put that in my home window. Remember, if it doesn't have variables in it, it goes in a home window. You are not putting variables in this equation ever, right? So I'm going to hit alpha y equals enter. I'm going to put negative of negative 8 plus square root, open parentheses, negative 8 squared minus 4, open parentheses, negative 4, close parentheses, open parentheses, 221, close parentheses, and then 2 times negative 4. And what do I get? I get x equals negative 17 over 2. Okay? And if you don't know if you need it, well, you should be able to leave it like that. If not, you can always just go and take what's 17 divided by 2 and find out what the decimal equivalent is. Next, I'm going to go back and copy this. I'm going to change my plus to a minus. Right here, minus. And I get 13 over 2. Okay? So, again, what if they want me just to reduce this? If I'm just supposed to reduce it, then I would say, what's the negative of a negative 8? It would be positive 8 plus or minus the square root of, I'm gonna put it two ways. I'm gonna do this part minus this part, and then I'm gonna do the whole discriminant. So negative 8 squared is 64, and then I'm going to do the negative 4 times negative 4 times 221, and I get plus 3,536 all over negative 8. So again, I can go one step further. Plus or minus the square root of that plus 64 is 3,600 all over negative 8. That's a perfect square, so I'm going to take it. 3,600, whoops, square root of 3,600 is going to give me 60. So really this would be 8 plus or minus 60 over negative 8. If I wanted to go further, I could say, well, this is a plus or minus, so if I do 8 plus 60, that's 68 over negative 8. Or if I say 8 minus 60, that'd be negative 52 over negative 8, right? This is how they got these roots here. So I get, and this is how they reduced it. They divide the bottom by 8 and the top by 8. I guess 68 divided by 8 is 8.5. So I have, that's what that is. Negative 8.5. And then I have negative 52 divided by negative 8. That's going to give me a positive. Oops. excuse me, 6.5. And, I shouldn't say or, and 6.5, which is what 13.2 is. Okay, so I just showed you several different steps for solving this one equation. And that's it.
Stop.